Thank you very much for taking time to tune in again. I appreciate all your support. So, if you have been with us for some time, you will notice that we started a series in the beginning of the year and we titled it Happy New You. And the whole idea behind this is to challenge ourselves that when we start a new year with a lot of expectations, planning, goal setting, praying, and aspiration, and most of the time at the end of the year, we don't get the result or the expected result. What is the gap? Where is the gap? And we challenge ourselves that the gap is with us, definitely not with God. And we also say that we should be the change that we expect. We should look inwards and make changes in the area of our spirit. We should make changes in the area of our soul, and that is where we dwelt a little bit because we've been talking about our emotions for a number of episodes. We talked about negative emotions that can stop a man from achieving his desired goal or reaching the fullness of his potential. We talked about pride, we talked about anger, and today we want to talk about something different, and that is laziness. Laziness. So I've got a number of scriptures, and interestingly, the Bible has a lot to say about laziness. So I'll read a little bit of them and then draw some nuggets from the scripture. The sluggard's craving will be the death of him, because his hands refuse to work. That's Proverbs 21, verse 25. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 11 says, those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4, a slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 24, diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor. Now, this is a book of compendium of wisdom from ages and from different perspectives, from different people, some of the wisest minds that ever lived. They compile this thing together, and all of them are saying laziness is not good. So I dare say that if you start a year and you end the year and you don't see the results, either by way of all the prophetic proclamation, the prayer, the fasting, you look inwards, perhaps you are lazy, perhaps you are not putting in the right effort. I dare say that one of the reasons why we don't get the result that we desire is because we plan, but we don't work our plans. So not only do we need to plan our work, we also need to work our plans. So you are saying, how do I know if I'm lazy or not? There are some signs, there are some symptoms. If laziness were a disease, which I believe it is, and I am a doctor and I want to diagnose, there are some signs that you will see. My focus today is not so much on the symptoms, so I won't dwell a lot on it, but I want to see what is the price of laziness. So let's look at a few things. The first thing you see is procrastination. So if you find it easy to push forward tasks, things you are supposed to do, I will do it tomorrow, then very likely there is laziness on the inside of you. Someone said, never put forward to tomorrow what you can do today, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. So it's not about a good idea to keep pushing forward what you can do now. It is a sign of laziness. If you sleep too much, then you may be having laziness. Fine. Sleep is good. Sleep was designed by God for us to rest after a long hard day's work, but sleep is not meant to be our preoccupation. Sleep is not meant, you sleep in the morning, sleep in the afternoon, sleep in the evening. Something is wrong because you are indulging yourself. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 9, how long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. If you spend too much time on the television or on the social media, always flipping, always checking, always being the live of the WhatsApp group, something is wrong, and you may be pointing in the direction of laziness. If you find it easy to give excuses, you want to do difficult things, You are either, to exercise, you excuse, to eat right, you excuse, to read, you excuse, to do your assignment, one excuse or the other. Once you become a master at giving excuses, you will not master anything else in life. I can go on and on telling you about what are the things that make up laziness. But the truth is that most of people who are lazy, they do know that they are lazy. So we don't need to spend a lot of effort in that area. Let's look at what is the price of laziness. What is the result? What is the outcome of laziness? The first thing I want you to know is that laziness is costly. You see, when you are being lazy, you may be enjoying it. Sometimes you are working with some individuals and he's dropping tasks, he's making other people do it for him. He is enjoying it, but he's eating a little bit of his future right now. And when the future comes, he will have nothing to resort to. Okay, so the person who is snoozing the alarm instead of waking up to read or waking up to go to work, he thinks he's enjoying, he thinks he's cheating the system, but he's cheating himself, because it's a matter of time he will find out that he has nothing to fall back on. Over and over again, that book of Proverbs, the compendium of wisdom, has so much to tell us. And laziness is always associated with poverty, with pain, and in some cases death. Okay, it says, how long will you lie down? And it comes to say, your poverty will come upon you like a robber and like an armed man. As a matter of fact, in Matthew 25, verse 30, where Jesus gave the parable, and he was talking about a rich man who gave 5 talents to one, 2 talents to one, and 1 to the other one. The gentleman that didn't do anything, full of excuses, burying his talent, what did he say? The master said to him, cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness, in that place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew 25, verse 30. Now that sounds like hellfire. And I'm not going to bring a theology to say lazy people will go to hell, but it's clear in the Bible that the position, the end result of lazy people is that is similar to hell. When you don't have money to be able to do your responsibility, that is hell here on earth. Or when all your mates are ahead of you because you are lazy, or you failed an exam because you couldn't pay the price to pass it, that is hell on earth. Okay, now what you also need to know is that it takes work for this life to go on. As a matter of fact, when God created Adam and Eve and he put them in the Garden of Eden, what he gave to them was work. It is an erroneous teaching. We used to believe when we were much younger boys that God just put Adam and Eve in the garden, they'll just be playing, they have nothing, they'll just be eating. No, God created work, and it is the process of work that makes life going, because it is work that makes life to be productive. And you see that countries where they have good work ethics are usually more productive than the ones that have poor work ethics. So laziness harms our lives. Laziness harms your life and those who are dependent on you. If you are a man, for instance, you are lazy, laziness will harm you. It will harm your wife because you will not be able to provide. It will harm your children. It will harm your extended family, because a man is supposed to be like a tree where other birds, animals perch under. But if you cannot even take care of yourself because you are lazy, how will you be able to take care of other people? The other point I want you to know is that prayer will never replace work. It's important that we get this right. Prayer will never replace work. And as a matter of fact, work will not replace prayer. Both are important. I pray, I believe in prayer. I pray as if everything depends on prayer, and I work as if everything depends on work. But in religious environment, bear in mind what I say, religious, not even spiritual. Religious environment, people tend to think that all they need to do is pray, and then everything will be fine. That is not necessarily true. That is only one half of the equation, one side of the coin, if you like, because when you pray, what prayer does is to open doors to you. God does not give you money, God gives you opportunities. It is left to you to convert the opportunities to money or whatever it is that you need. You see, grace does not exempt us from work. Grace does not exempt us from work. In 1 Corinthians 15 verse 10, the Apostle Paul said, by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace to me was not in vain, was not without effect. I worked harder than all of them. Yet not I, but the grace of God that was with me. So the Apostle Paul was more like the guy that came much later, having spent a lot of his time persecuting the church. And he said, God gave me grace. Now, grace doesn't mean fold your hands, stretch your hands, stay by the beach, and everything will be fine. It is wrong when people say things like pray and then money will drop into your account. That is, not God's primary way of blessing people. God's primary way of blessing people is you work and God will bless the work of your hands. So the Apostle Paul said, God gave me grace, but you know what he said? I worked harder than all of them. That is why someone said, if grace draws your circle of influence, it is work that will fill it. That is very important. And let me try and see if I can unpack that a little bit. If grace draws your circle of influence, it is work that will fill it. What does that mean? If I am a business owner, for instance, and I've prayed, I've done vigil, I've done everything, and God gives me a breakthrough. Let's say I get a contract to build 100 schools in the country. Do you know that my schedule will change? I will need to work harder. I will sleep less. I will need to manage people. I will need to grow and build capacity. So when we pray, we should get ready to work. It is when the two happens that you see result and success. You see, your mind, your body, your emotions were designed for work. And if you don't use them, if you don't work them, they will fall apart. Ask people who are old, who are used to working. Once they are retired and they have nothing to doing, then they begin to deteriorate and very soon they die. So our mind, our body, our system was designed to work. If I don't use my hand, the muscle will atrophy and over a period of time it will die. So I've got to use it. If I don't use my mind, I will lose it. I will lose the function of it. So God designed us to work. So work does not kill, but poverty kills. You see, God uses hard-working people. God uses hard-working people. In fact, D.L. Moody, the old Christian, said that there is nothing like a lazy Christian. He doesn't believe that there is anything like a lazy Christian. That is, you cannot use the word lazy and the word Christian in one sentence. You are either a Christian and you are not lazy, or you are lazy and you cannot be a Christian. Unfortunately, today we have people who claim to be Christians and they are lazy. If you are a Christian, your work is your worship to God, and it should show everywhere you are working. You should be an asset. And to the point of D.L. Moody, you see, over the Bible, we see God using people who are busy, productive, doing something. Whether it is, whether it is Saul, the first king of Israel, who was looking for his father's donkey, or David, who was taking care of his father's ashes, or the 4 disciples that Jesus recruited, who were fishermen, or Amos, who was a herdsman, or Gideon, who was in the threshing floor making flour over and over and over, or Moses, who was tending his father's in-law's sheep. Before God calls anybody, one of the prerequisites is that you must be busy. I think of Matthew, who was sitting at the customs desk. You've got to be doing something. And the corporate world has learned that they say, you want the job done, give it to the busy person. Somebody is doing something, God sees it, and then He will bless it and by giving you more work. Next point I want to make is that talent is overrated. Talent is overrated. Most of the time, we tend to think that everything is talent. Talent is fine, but I want you to know that beyond talent, you've got to work the talent. For every Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, there are 1,001 people who have the same talent, but they've not worked it. They don't go for practice. And those who are close to those guys know that those guys do improve the skills that they demonstrate on the field. It is not on the day of the tournament that you show the skill. You would have been perfecting it over and over again. I remember recently I was in a convention, and a lady came, stood up, and recited chunks of the book of Daniel, chapters, at least 6 chapters of the book of Daniel. And everybody clapped and applauded. And the tendency is for us to think that God gave her extraordinary talent. Maybe, but beyond the talent is the hard work. As a matter of fact, I spoke with this lady and she said to me, I have no spare time, no idle time. Every time she's writing those scriptures, she's meditating on them, and that is how she can make it a part and parcel of her. And that tells me about spiritual laziness. You see, in every endeavor of work, people need to work. I think corporate people have been able to talk about, is it 10,000 hours rule. When you have done something over and over for like 10,000 hours, you become an expert in it. In the same way, whether it's a ministry you want to run, or even in your personal life you want to grow in your relationship with God, it takes a lot of work. Nothing will fall on your laps without you working it. The Apostle Paul said, we have a great deal to say about this, and it is difficult to explain since you have become too lazy to understand. So there is something like spiritual laziness. So those guys actually robbed you and I of revelations that the Apostle Paul wanted to teach them, but he said they were too lazy to understand it. Hebrews chapter 5 verse 11. They were too lazy. They couldn't grab it. If you see anybody who's doing anything significant for God, they pay the price in prayer, in reading the Bible, in waiting. So nothing just comes for nothing. There is nothing like Q Sira Sira. Whatever will be. So I want to bring this to a conclusion by quoting a gentleman called Conor McGregor. He is a boxer. I don't like boxing. I think it's too violent, but I think we can get one or two wisdom from him. He said, there is no talent here. This is hard work. This is an obsession. Talent does not exist. We are all created equal as human beings. You could be anyone if you put in the time. You will reach the top. I am not talented. I am only obsessed. So I encourage you today, get obsessed with work and you will see the result. You know what they say, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I don't believe in luck, but I believe in the favor of God. And I believe I've been able to prove to you, the harder you work, the more of God's favor you will get. In the next episode, I will be talking to you about how do we deal laziness a blow. Until then, remember, knowledge must turn to action no matter the cost. God bless you.